The following presentation of the Eric McKenna Project is sponsored by no one.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
But yeah,
Good to see you.
good to see you too, man.
Yeah, this is always a treat for me. So,
And I just discovered there's a coffee shop down the road.
that helps, right?
Before every time I would come, I was like, okay, where do I get coffee from? And because I take being on time so seriously,
You've always been.
I would, because there's a Starbucks like right down the road from where I live that I could go and take, but it's like a 10-minute minimum detour off, and I was like, I got this all timed up great, so I just let it go, and I was going to be coffeeless this morning, but then I decided that I needed to get, and you told me about the place around the corner, and it's good coffee too.
Good. Anchor and Anvil, by the way.
There's some great. Lately, I've been getting into YouTube videos where like I will think of a question, or I'll be curious about something, and someone has answered it or explained it or gone right on. And then what that does, that kind of drives you down
a rabbit
hole where you just get interested in a bunch of other stuff. And like, there's this one channel I listen to right now, or watch really, because they do videos.
What's the channel?
Wendover Productions.
Okay.
And from Wendover Productions, some of the cool things I learned like or rather what the problem with nuclear waste is, how air travel works in terms of like how they price seats out, and why some routes are more expensive than others, and what influences that.
Well, that's useful for you though, for all the traveling you do and your booking.
Oh yeah,
you have an inside track there though.
And it's really great having Anna around, because if it wasn't for here's what I can say absolutely. If it wasn't for her, I don't think I'd travel to as many varied places.
Got it.
Would I travel as much? Sure, but I know my imagination would be somewhat limited. Like for example, in March, the last half of March, we're going to be in Eastern Europe in Budapest.
Okay.
I can tell you
a hot spot right now.
Isn't it? No, Budapest is fine.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah, but like I can tell you right now, I never thought of going to Budapest. It never crossed my mind. And then,
so whose idea was it? Hers or yours?
Well, so here's what happened. She is going to a conference for travel, particularly specifically river cruising. Expo where all the river cruising companies will be there.
And that's big on like in Europe because of the Mediterranean.
Well, it's big. Most of the river cruises are in Europe. Yeah, but the main clientele are Americans.
Okay, yeah, right? Of course.
So we're gonna go, and my chess teacher actually happens to live in Budapest, so I'm probably gonna go have some lessons and see him in person and all. But then afterwards, we're gonna take a river cruise. I believe that is the Danube. We leave from Budapest and we'll end in Munich, Germany. So that's gonna take. I just had to tell a partner I'm working on a project with when I'll be unavailable. March 14th to. I think we get back on the 27th.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a fun time, man. I'm looking forward to it. You know, and seeing the world and travel just makes you. It has expanded my perspective on so much, and really reiterates what I believe, that we're all global citizens, and it's unfortunate because of how humans are. We're not going to realize that until the entire planet is under attack from a foreign force, and that force, alien force, does not see black, white, or upper or lower class. It just sees humans, and you know, really, that's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, because we're so parochial, and 100%. Yeah, travel for me was always good because was humbling. It forced me to be humble at times too, because I mean, it was great to be from the big old states, of course, but ultimately you realize there is an entire other way of life out there, which is not uniform. It's varied.
Yep.
And but I think we become so I don't know, we're so casual about the way things are that they must be that way everywhere, and it's not.
Yeah, people forget, man. The United States is a very unique animal compared to the rest of the world, because we didn't, or this country didn't have to go through the same iterations that many other places and many other prominent, like Europe went through, where there was like monarchies and dictatorships. That never happened to us. We looked and we saw and we said, okay, here's how we're going to avoid that. Set this system up. Boom. Right. And that's made a big difference. Like, for example, one of the things that the very, very practical thing that most people don't consider, the United States, we let people complain on their own. We never really experienced the lockdowns the way the Europeans or the Canadians did, or Australia, because we have this thing called the 10th Amendment, and also the first one, the second one, I mean. But yeah, that makes a big difference, and everyone's kind of familiar with the Second Amendment, right. The right to bear arms. But a lot of people aren't familiar with the 10th Amendment, which is the final one of the Bill of Rights, which says, anything that we haven't given the federal government power to legislate now or in the future, individual states can figure that out on their own.
Right.
And pretty much what that is saying, that's more or less going, well, we don't know what's going to come up, but in the event that we do, here's the limit of our power. You guys figure it out. And there's a few amendments, one other amendment like that. This is also, by the way, before 6 months ago, I would not be able to talk about the Constitution like this, but I got curious, and so I listened through this series while I was driving, where it broke down every single amendment, and so like now I know, like the 14th Amendment is kind of one of those things that they go, well, we don't know what's going to happen, and the 14th Amendment says that like anyone in the United States, more or less everyone in the U.S. is treated with under the same laws. All right, every person who is considered a United States citizen, they are treated and held to the same laws and standards. And what that's been used to argue, for example, is the legalization of gay marriage. Right. There was one other big deal, big thing where it came up, where they pretty much went, the interracial marriage. That was a big deal. Really? There was another case. Yeah. Okay. Well, people don't know this. It wasn't until 1967 that was federally illegal.
That I do know.
There were,
and they used that amendment for the argument. With the amendment, that amendment was used for the argument. Correct.
One of the arguments.
Okay.
And
which is insane.
Yeah, till 1967, and you go,
and that's recent history.
Well, yeah, my mom, you were born before 1966. Yeah, right. So, and to put this in perspective, how crazy some of this stuff is, and people have to, this is why I think you should study history, not to be a history trivia buff, but so you can understand kind of the cycles of humanity and human nature, and how things, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, as they say, and there's a lot that we need to make sure we understand. One of those things is, for example, there was a moment, I can't remember the year, but it's significant when you look it up, where they decide, where states were given the free reign to decide whether it was going to be illegal or not, I think is the moment. And every state in the South, like what's considered the South, those are the ones affected by the 1967 ruling, Loving versus Virginia, I think. Right. So like that's relatively recent, But
it's very recent.
But we went off on a tangent. But the idea is that I sat there and I listened to all of them and really understood, or I try to understand. And anytime I have questions, I just go back to the series or look it up. The internet's a great tool if you want to learn, anything.
Is that a difference about the way American children are educated as opposed to various other countries where there's I don't know if that speaks more toward nationalism or whatever it is, but I get the sense that the children, I don't know, let's just say Chinese children coming through their education system probably have a better understanding of the inner workings of their government at a very young age than we are required to. Would you not agree?
I don't know enough about how other countries mandate education, with the notable exception of France. I know France is, but their education system is very different. Yeah, but there's trade-offs. They put you on a track kind of like right out of elementary school,
sure.
and good luck getting off that track. But no, I think here's my thoughts about the education system in general, and this applies specifically here, but you got to understand kind of my general perspective. I genuinely believe at this point in my life that the education system, our compulsory education system, K through 12, is designed to function more as a supplement to this idea that you need a two-parent household, or rather two working parents in the household, or two-income household. Because when you look at what you're taught, I mean, you want to talk about like not applicable. They really do a job. Like if I was going to design a way, if I had to come up with a way to keep people busy, which is what you have to do, because until they're like in high school, they can't even stay at home alone. Right. If I was going to keep people busy, I mean, look, a lot of these subjects are relatively, I won't call them useless. They don't prepare you for the things that you will inevitably face once you're no longer in the school system, when you
right.
bombard face first into the real world.
Right.
And my thought process has always been like, okay, you can take community college classes in high school, and from what I see, there's nothing that says an 8th grader can't understand calculus, for example, or learn a program or whatever. So you have to go, okay, so what is going on here? We've decided we've got this kind of collective, we're not considering the extremes except in special cases, but we have this curriculum that most people will be able to follow and get through. It's not too challenging, not too easy, and it makes you feel accomplished. And then we make a system that follows that goes, well, you got to do, because we got to incentivize
sure.
you to pay attention to this.
Sure.
Otherwise, everyone wakes up and goes, what am I doing here? Well, when we make college about that, about your performance here, and we convince you that you need college
yes.
to get a well-paying job and to have a good living.
Yes.
And none of that is true. Now, maybe at one point it was true. Or rather, maybe at one point, it's never been true that you needed college to make a good living, but for the average person, that was the most likely path to
Would you say
financial
like,
stability.
80, 70 and make midway through the 90s? I'm sorry, the 80s and let's say midway through the 90s. I think it was probably more true then.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, because what's happened? Look at the changes that we have. Decentralized education. It may not be recognized and certified, but that's coming because, well, you know what? I thought that, but humans can always surprise you. I thought that the generation, like now, people who are generation millennial, right, are you're very, very. Well, no, millennials, because a late Gen Xer is still like 40 right now. Right. So, but I bring this up. The children of millennials are now starting to go. Of the people, the millennials who had kids early, their kids are starting to enroll in college.
Right.
And I saw a report out of California that said they had record numbers of enrollment. My jaw dropped because I understand what this has got to mean. Across the board, we're having less children.
Right.
Okay. Especially the millennial generation.
Understood.
So for their children, who are mostly represented in that class, well, not mostly, but starting to be represented, for that to be the highest enrollment period or highest application period, not enrollment application, that means that a larger percentage of a shrinking population applied to go. Right, so that's what I'm breaking up, but that's all the side. But how are things changing? Decentralized education. I mean, you can literally learn anything, and it's really quite cool. The only difference now, there are certain you need the gatekeepers in some professions. You need regulatory bodies to look and see if you know what you're doing. If you do accounting work or tax work, I would like to know you have got your hours in surgery, in medicine, shadowing people. For sure. You know, those kind of areas. But for most professions, we've moved away from
like your communications, your marketing degrees. Things like that.
You can learn that stuff online. Look, man, my marketing education is strung together from the ground up, having to figure it out. And if I figured it out, and I don't even consider myself a business person. I'm a creative who had to learn how to make sure I'm not broke.
Well, look at all the tools now, though.
So many tools,
all kinds. It's crazy. It's
incredible. So decentralized education, an increasingly focused tech workforce. One thing that the pandemic did, or one thing the pandemic sped up, was a transition that we were kind of dipping our toe into, and a lot of people were like, don't go in the water at all, pull you back, because they got a vested interest in things not progressing.
Of course.
But it accelerated distance work. Because we have a planet that is now completely interconnected. We don't, a lot of jobs that were just taking up space because now they're skilled. Now it's like, oh, okay, what am I gonna do here? Well, nothing. You don't have any. You were a placeholder for administrative work that was to be done in person. When we removed the fact that we're doing things in person and relying on new tools and tech, well, we see that some people don't have a purpose, or they get outsourced, all right?
Or eliminated. The job's eliminated.
Or completely eliminated, right? So we got that.
And we're not warehousing people anymore.
I'm not doing that. Decentralized education, a distance or tech focused world, and a corollary, or rather, I guess, a subset of that are the tools that make this world possible. And really, like, now the employers are starting to go, because when you move to this area, at the end of the day, no one's against making more money, right? Remember that. If you have a skill set that helps to make more money and you can demonstrate it, I got a few buddies actually who work at or run schools to where they're like, look, here's what we're going to do. It's an 18-month program. We're going to show you how to build a real-world portfolio that demonstrates your skill set and knowledge.
Got it.
All right. That's very different than we're going to have you go 4 years and learn a bunch of facts and stuff and it's cheaper, and they help, and it's not job placement. They show you how to go out and look, send emails, with all that stuff.
Got it.
This is the world we're in. Okay. So, now, the education system is still teaching. I saw somebody post the other day, and it was a good point. I mean, let's get rid of Algebra 2. I'm a physics guy. Remember this. I think math is very valuable. I don't see any reason to make a kid struggle through Algebra 2. If you really want to, like, if they really want to learn Algebra 2, to go pursue things and study these things, they'll learn it. They will figure it out. Right. But no one likes to hear that.
Well, it's there's also institutions around this education that are very powerful,
highly vested in making sure you go.
Keeping the standard as it is.
The marketing for education, it is incredible.
Yeah,
and you don't realize it because it's that good. Like,
it's in society. Ed.
You don't even,
it's there.
Like, it's kind of a given that you should go to college. Yeah. That's crazy.
It is crazy,
right? They don't have to even like look for you look for them.
Yeah, it's not being sold to anybody. I mean, it's already ingrained in society, and that's where, and it really, for the longest time, when I would hear politicians talk about student loan forgiveness and all that, and immediately I would poo-poo the whole thing, like that is insane. I don't want to think about it. And I still feel that that's not an answer to me. However, I will tell you, through talking with more people who are proponents of it, I'm starting to unwind the process that student loans, there's predatory student loans, there's a lot of nonsense and, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of bullshit that goes on with these kids getting in debt for life almost. And the process is so broken that I'm not saying a signature forgiveness across the board is the way to go, but I think the system needs fixed desperately.
Yeah.
But it's going to upset a huge apple cart the moment they start doing it.
They don't. So here's, I think about this a lot because it's just an interesting conversation. And I've got I think, a relatively unique and varied perspective on the machine, having gone and trying to go through it at 18.
Right.
Buying into all of the, for lack of a better word, propaganda, getting there, not being ready, and then going back, 10 years later, and finishing out what a degree as an adult student that I paid for. Okay, my thoughts on student loan forgiveness is it won't make a difference. Like, I think that's kind of what you're saying, because we forgive all this debt, right? And really, it won't. I don't think it'll upset the economy, because it's not like these people are taking that and converting it to something. A lot of them, that's where the debt has got to be, forgiven, is because they don't have any income, at least not a useful one. Right. Anyhow, that being said, as long as you continue to allow people to take out money to go to school at 18, knowing that they don't know and change, knowing that their mind's going to change, knowing that they probably won't, finish complete, it's not a viable solution. Because people look at education, I think about how even when I talk to people now, they go, okay, you get a degree, that's like the fastest way to financial security and to change social classes or our income brackets. And that's such a powerful lie. That's just all it is. Yeah. I think the fastest way to change income, if I had my brain now, but I was like 16-year-old me in Northview Heights, I would spend all of my time trying to create some type of god or text or skill and learn how to market and sell it. I'd spend a lot of time learning things about advertisement, so I could make enough money to go do something else. But like this, only this, like, what a myth that the people buy into. This thing that cost, for the average price I heard the other day for a college degree, a 4-year degree, the average price I got back was $133,000. Now, granted, that's the average, not the median. So we gotta, without seeing all the numbers, that doesn't tell us, that doesn't say exactly what it's supposed to say, but it gives us a ballpark. It shouldn't be that high, is my point. And if you take that money out to do a thing, and then you go to work, and the idea is that you make more money than you would have made otherwise. And that might be true, but that money is eroded because you got debt to start with, and there's lost opportunity cost. That's the other thing too. I mean, there's just so many ways to do so many things, and it's going to take a long time for people to. You're dealing with two forces. One, you're dealing with people's resistance to change in general.
There's a stigma attached to it too, right? And
on top of that, that too. Now, I do think my experience anyhow, my perspective is that stigma might be loosening, but I have to remember that I live in a very different world. You do. Populated by very different actors who share more ideas with me than not. So perhaps it is that stigma still exists. But not only are you dealing with the resistance to change and that stigma, you're also dealing with the fact that this change increases the burden of responsibility on the individual.
There's no question.
I made a post this morning where I saw what was in response to a guy talking about how $15 per hour is poverty. And my first thought when I read that is, well, you could just go learn something to be worth more than $15 an hour. And that is not the answer people want to hear, because they'll come up with every way and reason why they can. It's like when I talk about health to guys, and I go, look, if you learn the blood work markers you need to look at, and just get your own blood work done every 6 months, and then adjust accordingly. That will keep you so healthy. Not only will it keep you healthy, it'll catch a lot of things before they're problems. Mm-hmm. Like if you've been monitoring your white blood cell count for 3 years, and all of a sudden it tanks, you probably your body's probably going, oh man, there might be some cancer we're fighting. Let's dig into this, and you can get ahead of something and treat it. But what does that do?
Hold you accountable.
That holds you accountable to how you eat, how you live, and what you put in your body. Mm-hmm. It removes the medication. People love pills because pills are cheap and easy, right? Mm-hmm. And on top of that, like anytime people feel the exchange of money, it bugs them. People are so weird. They'll be okay paying a medical bill. Like paying right now, I think about what I pay, and I think it's pretty cheap. At least that's what I've been told. I pay about $230 a month for my health insurance.
It's cheap,
and I set that up because I looked at how I live, and I don't have the risk. Now, when I fought, I paid a little more because I thought, and I'm rightfully so, I'd have to go to the ER a little more. So my ER deductible was a bit higher, or lower. I mean. But but having it set up this way, and then the next step this year is to open up an HSA and just put money in there. But what I'm doing, I'm taking complete responsibility,
of course,
for my health, right? As much as I can. Like if I walk out tomorrow, or even if I leave the studio right now and I get squashed by a car, okay, man, shit happens. But things that that don't have to happen, the preventable illnesses, they won't take me out.
Well, you're putting the odds in your favor.
That's all you're doing.
Right.
But that requires effort. I got to get up every morning and go to the gym.
Ownership.
I got to, like last night's dinner, I thought it was delicious. We had salmon and roasted asparagus. Mm-hmm. It's a great, you show that to the average person, the average American, it looks appalling. Or not appalling, but it is not as appealing as perhaps something fried or something from or something covered in sugar.
100%.
It's the same reason with the same mentality that drove sobriety for me. Mm-hmm. Accountability. Let me get rid of the things that I know are hurting me that I can control. Let me put the things in my favor that will make a difference in my life. And we take this mentality that we've established that my way of looking at things is relatively rare. If we look at the average person compared to how they would see education. Mm-hmm. I always say a 4-year degree at all costs about the same. Instead of getting a communications degree, why don't you go get something in engineering? Oh, it's going to be hard as heck. And if you don't have the aptitude for that, how about accounting? Right? But that's easier, but it's worthwhile. But that you're gonna feel the pain. This not so much. And that makes a big difference.
It's almost like teaching someone to make a business decision about their own life early on, right?
Yep.
What am I gonna invest? What's it gonna cost? And what is the potential return?
What my solution is, one of my solutions, and I discovered it on accident because of how I lived. I think 18 to 25, go do something else with that time. Mm-hmm. Don't go to college. Just don't. I mean, I would, go learn a foreign language. For example, foreign language used to be degrees. If you tell me, I won't make fun of somebody if they tell me they have a communications degree. Mm-hmm. I'll secretly judge them, but I won't mock them. I will mock you to your face if you tell me in the year 2022 that you are going to college to study a foreign language. I will mock you. I will mock you mercilessly, but I'm also going to show you, I'm going to do a quick cost comparison of how much cheaper it would be. Somebody majors in Spanish. Whoa, slow down. That's going to cost you about 30 grand for a bunch of classes embedded in there. There's going to be stuff that's not Spanish, and it won't be, and on top of that, unless you get real lucky, it's likely not going to be taught in the optimal way. Here's what you do instead. Download Duolingo. That's free. Start building up your vocabulary playing games in that. While you're doing that, here are a list of podcasts you can listen to so you can train your ear.
Right.
While you're listening to those podcasts, here's how you should go about interacting with them. Like, I think about the things I use, like shadowing, where I would like just try to repeat back.
Right.
Oh, and here's italki, a site that is free to go on, but you pay a tutor between $6 and $15 an hour, and you have conversation. You will learn more Spanish in a fourth of the time for like, I can't even say a tenth of the price. It shouldn't even cost you $3,000 to go through with that plan before you attain, like, we will say B1 level of communication.
Right. But they'll go ahead and do a whole curriculum, a whole major, and invest tens of thousands of dollars into that.
Incredible. This is one of the things I really liked about what I studied when I studied physics. Is right. There are like there were classes I had to take as like, because they're going to get their pound of flesh one way or the other. They're not just going to let you walk out of there.
Of course not.
Because a lot of people need jobs that ain't going to have them if all of a sudden you only have to focus on what you majored in. But because of the discipline they wanted to offer, they had to kick some of that stuff to the curb. Like engineers don't have that. I mean, they got to study engineering like more or less all 3 years. There ain't a lot of room for other stuff.
It's a very specific technical skill.
If they want to hold the accreditation,
right.
I think it's a bet, maybe. I might be getting that wrong. But if a school wants to hold the accreditation to teach engineering, they got to make a choice. Do we want our students to learn this other stuff, or do we want to focus on this? Because to get the curriculum done in 4 years, you can't do both.
Right.
So you either make it 5 years and see if they'll pay extra, which a lot of won't, or you get rid of some BS as long as you declare engineering and stuff like that.
But would you not agree? It just comes back to human initiative, and it's just the human taking ownership of their own future. And I think a lot of folks, maybe from the age of 10 to like 30 right now, have gone through a life that a lot has either been given to them, or pathways have been laid out for them, and they've been nudged. I mean, society is not showing the virtues of independence, not showing the virtues of self-starting.
Man, you want to talk about so I personally hate, and I won't do it, or when I catch myself doing it, I try to go and correct it. To make like a claim that society is nurturing kids and they're growing up soft. Like, to me, that feels very like, what's the word I want? That unscientific. So what do I do?
Yes.
I go, let's see how true this is. Has anyone done anything to see how true this is? There's a great guy, Dr. Jonathan Haidt.
Okay.
He wrote a book called,
I know that name,
The Coddling of the American Mind. He's also got a great book called The Righteous Mind, How Good People
He was
Get
just on
Divided.
a podcast I started listening to, and I did not complete it.
I'm telling you, if you want to listen to some great work on you, listen to some of Jonathan Haidt's lectures. And one of the things he figured out, he attempted to answer this question too, or some variation of it. And so he looked at 3 markers for development that kind of show when you're being pushed into the riskiness and stress of the real world. And those 3 markers, he looked at when the kids get their driver's license, the average age, when did kids first experiment or have their first drink, and when did they go out or ask out, I think he said ask out somebody on a date.
Okay.
And what he found was, compared to 1970, it was like 1970, which would be the X, and then like 1990, Millennial, and then, pretty much 2000 up. Well, not pretty much, 2000 up, or like 99, 98 up, Generation Z, I think that's what it's called. Yeah. that number gets progressively later in life.
Yeah. I believe it.
Like the average age to get your driver's license in like the 70s,
we were
that was like
man.
that was like 16. Like you were like, I gotta go like today,
like
right? Compared to now, the average age is 18. Now it used to be like it was like 15 and some change, and like it's like 16 now across, or it was 16. Kids are, and now he wasn't encouraging or promoting drinking,
right?
But the point is that when you take certain social risk, that's a pretty good measurement of how exposed you're letting yourself get to the world, and that's getting later. And no one's asking anyone out on a date. You want to hear something crazy? And this is like
I'm seeing that.
This is like a side note, but like I think worth looking at. So I found out 2 stats. One, across the board, like everyone is having less sex under 30, which is like not the demographic you would expect that to occur, but that is what's happening. And even more stunning to me, every 27% of men under the age of 30 are virgins. That's 1 in 4.
That's insane.
And that and you know why?
Roll that back 20 years. Roll that back 30, 40 years.
Right. And I think that, you know, I'll have to like look at the article again and refresh and show the comparison, but it later and later that's what you're seeing, and it's crazy.
So help me vet this out. Are you insinuating that maybe life has just become too comfortable?
Incredibly comfortable.
Okay,
it's become incredibly comfortable, incredibly easy, and the internet has done something that. First of all, I'm very pro internet. I'm not like, you know,
I am as well.
But one of the things it's done is it's taken away a lot of risk. You don't have to make risk. You don't have to take risk. I think about, you know, we were talking about for the show, like my good friends that I made and met when I got to the high school. It was different because I didn't have any friends prior to. I don't have any like close friends now that I made like prior to the age of 14, and when I hang out with Dr. A lot. But those friends I made, 2 of them at least, you know how we became friends? In 9th grade, we were talking trash about who was better at Marvel vs. Capcom 2, this video game. So you know what we did? We caught the bus, mind you, the public bus, 30-minute ride-ish, out to Monroeville Mall, to play at the arcade. And when we got to the arcade, there was a bunch of other kids there playing as well, and so we had to figure out a whole set. You know, we're not like formally stating rules, but the rules end up being laid out by our interaction because we want to keep order in the peace.
Socialization.
Yes, socialization. You know what would happen today? We would log on to Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, and have you heard some of the chat rooms? The stuff is legendary. They have this whole clips of YouTube, some of the crazy nonsense people say to one another, because you weren't talking to somebody like that in person when you beat them.
You get your nose busted.
Yeah, and these were nerds. You know, they're not like people that were gonna do it, but you know, there would be some kickback.
Right.
Now ain't no such thing.
There'd be some risk.
Right. So so these risks aren't being taken. He does there's a lecture you can check out on YouTube as well, where he's talking about his book, and one of the things he comments on, or one of the tests he does in the room, and it's a room of mixed ages. He goes, you know, raise your hand if you're Generation X, and lays out the year. Raise your hand if you're Generation Z, lays out the years, and goes, and he ignores the millennial, because Millennial Generation is just a fascinating study,
right?
Because of, you know, every generation has changed, but the change we had fundamentally changed how society was and how people in society interacted with one another because of the technology that came about. You know,
like 96-ish, really.
Yeah, well, say, you know, if you're born between, like, I think it's like 83 and 92, that range. When you were in high school, there was no social media. 4 years later, people got social media on their cellular phones, right? That did not exist. I mean, they existed, but no one really had a cell phone in high school. Right. Now, you know, you're weird if you don't have one. But he asked, you know, when you were a kid, what age were you allowed to stay out, where you're allowed to go outside by yourself without your parents watching you or being unaccompanied. And all the people in like the Gen Xers were like 8, 7, like in those ranges. All right. And in my experience, I was like 6 or 7, right? I mean,
that's what I was too.
Right. The Z's, it was like 12, 13, 14, 15, like being like legitimately overprotected, and that's not good because humans are anti-fragile mechanisms. Like, they get better by being stressed and broken down, and and you see it at a physiological level. If you want to get stronger, you're gonna have to break your muscles down. If you want to get smarter, right now we're moving away from the physiology. We're talking about how we think.
Right.
You're gonna have to face challenging ideas, take some some losses on how you think and how you approach, and get better.
So were the kids' development stunted by overbearing or fearful parenting?
Yes. And because when you overparent, you delay the
inevitable.
You delay the inevitable. Like even if you manage to keep them there forever, you're still gonna die before them.
Yeah.
This was not an argument, but it was. Well, yeah, I mean, it was an argument. It was a heated discussion I used to have with my mom about my sister. I said, look, you understand, because she let my sister stay with her, and then my sister stayed with her a little too long, and she would complain. And I said to her, I said, look, you understand. Look, I know you can't imagine kicking your kid out. First off, she's not your kid anymore. She's like 25 or something, okay? Second, the longer you don't let her figure this stuff out, the worse it's going to be for her. Because one day you will die, and you won't be able to give her a place to stay. So you need to make sure that she figures this out. This is one of the reasons, by the way, I've heard arguments on both sides. First of all, I don't believe, it's just the terminology. Rarely is someone ever actually kicked out. I figured that out from a poll, and I got a pretty big following. Rarely is it kicked out. It's just the terminology we use and the expectation kind of goes along with it. But I think this is why there's a lot of benefit, especially for guys, moving out the house at 18 and figuring things out. Mm-hmm. Because you learn, nothing teaches you the power of responsibility like not being able to waste your money, because you got a budget and
100%.
Rent, groceries,
100%.
Keep your house clean, manage noise, like all of that, like figuring all that out on your own. And you don't, and the longer it takes you to learn it, the harder that thing is going to be. Meanwhile, when the sooner you figure it out, I feel. I'll talk about that. I just had an article where I wrote about some of the benefits of not having a lot of things and having to figure this stuff out. It frees you. It frees you because
we're weighed down by stuff, right?
Yeah, a lot of people. If you grow up with or rather, this is one of the benefits of growing up broke, or what it comes down to. When you grow up broke and you're not, and you figured it out on your own, and the whole trial tribulation when you figure this out, you are not you have a certain faith that allows you to take risk, and by definition of the word risk, without the adjectives of pure or speculative added to it. The definition of the word risk is to expose yourself to harm. Now, the idea is that the possibility of harm. Now, the idea is that we're taking speculative risk. Pure risk is where it's only a loss, right? Compared to speculative risk where you can win or gain. And the difference that goes, you can risk speculatively $1,000 on who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
You may win, you may lose. There is no good if the plane crashes. That is a pure risk, and there are two different kinds. And people people only hear risk. So true. They only focus on the negative. So true. They only focus on what they can lose. Well, if you had never had anything really to lose, right? Like I thought about this. Well, when I started fighting, when I started fighting, what else did I do? When I enlisted in the Army? I'm just trying to think about some things I got blowback for from some people who grew up in a very middle class lifestyle. And I said, look here, what's the worst that's going to happen? And I still have that perspective. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to still be poor. That's what's going to happen. If I continue on what I'm doing, and even though they recognized and knew that I come from a much worse level, that conditioning, they can't see decisions that way. They can't see
interesting
the idea of exposing yourself to the possibility of losing to gain. And that's the only, like any gain that doesn't expose you to the possibility of loss is just, it's just not worth that much.
Right.
Right. We see that any type of speculative market, any type of gamble, like the more you stand to lose, the more you stand to gain. Now, the idea is you want to be smart and optimize it and make sure that loss is not an area where you're going to feel it. But that's how it goes. And if you understand that fundamentally, then you can make big moves and big changes at an early age of that. But if your whole life, that's why the middle was kind of a curse, because you're not rich enough to do whatever you want. But you're not so poor that you can do nothing. Mm-hmm. Instead, you are in the middle, and now every decision you make is not done to maximize that position or to improve because it's comfortable.
Right.
Instead, what you're doing is playing not to lose it.
It's exactly what's going on.
Like it's one of the most amazing things I witnessed, because I think about these things reflect, because now. It's funny, man. You don't realize how much time flies. I mean, I guess you probably, have as well.
Yeah, I do.
But you have certain experiences.
I should be saying that to you.
You have certain experiences where you realize how much time has passed. And right now we're watching this show on Netflix, Love is Blind. Mm-hmm. And so many of the people are between 25 and 29. And I'm like, yo, that is a decade. Like those are adults, and that's 10 years younger than me.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
But I don't even remember the point I was making with that, bringing up the fact that time passes by. Well, right, where I was going, right around that age range.
Right.
Okay.
Late 20s.
I reflect back, late 20s. I really believe, based on everything I've seen, the average person where they're at 27 to 30, that is going to be what they're fighting to maintain.
Where they stay.
Yeah, for the rest of their lives. Because at that point, there's almost 3 decades of life invested on this planet. If you've been working towards a thing as an adult, now you've got about a decade invested into that path. You get there, and everything you have, everything you've done, the fight kind of goes out of you if it was ever there in the first place. And one of the things,
it's pretty sad.
It's sad, maybe necessary, maybe not. I don't know. I go back and forth based on different factors. Sure. And I always remember that I don't have kids yet. So now part of the reason is that's a calculated decision. So one of the things my coach said that really stuck with me. My coach didn't have his kids start having his kids until he was 40, and he said. No, not even 40. He's 40 because his son is 6 now and he's 50. So 44, 43 is when they started. And he said, he said, maybe I should have started a little earlier, get with the wife he had, but I wanted to make sure that I had done all the things that I thought were important. So when they are here, my life can be about making sure they get opportunities and stuff. It's not but because I get it. If it comes down, I think now, if it comes down to coaching this fighter to make $75,000, right? Somehow, right? No, or his family. Now he can walk away from that opportunity. But if he was young and struggling. And kids, he can't turn that down, but his kids might also need him to be there or whatever.
Right.
It's a different, you get to make those choices. But back to the main point, I think when you get there, you start maintaining instead of taking risk. And
so let's dive into that. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is it? I mean, there's so many areas to go there. Are we by that time beaten up by life and we're kind of just like?
I don't think we're beaten up.
And we're talking generalities, of course. But
yeah, generalities. I just think it's
the
comfort,
mechanisms of society.
Comfort plus time.
Comfort plus time.
You can look, man. Here's one thing I learned: you can make almost anything comfortable. Like, you can get used to almost anything.
Humans have been doing that for centuries.
And once you know, like you ever hear that old saying, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't"? Right. I mean, people will settle for some really crappy situations because they can rely on it.
Okay.
It's a shortcut. They don't have to think. Like if you make it to 30 and you've been, working some low paying job and been in this awful relationship, but the job is secure. You know exactly what to do to get the paycheck, and you get a
level of comfort there.
Yeah, and even though this person might cheat on you, they come home every night, and you catch them every now and then, and it's miserable, and you feel like you're worth more. But you have this person. Then you go, all right, this is what I know. I can predict this is because I think people in general are uncomfortable with uncertainty, unpredictability, risk, pretty much not knowing what's coming next. I don't think they get beat up. I think they get used to that. And when
it's laziness, then.
I
don't like use that word, but I mean, like, I don't know what other word to use.
Well, yeah. I guess it would be, in a pure sense of the word, lazy. But at the end of the day, like, as long as it doesn't affect my life, I never really.
The negative connotation with laziness. The word, yeah.
Which is that's the kind of implication when you use the word laziness, and that's why I shied away from
contentment.
Yeah, you can become content doing anything, and once you get content, it becomes really hard to go. Well, aside from the risk you'd have to take that you want to avoid, the longer you do something, the more it becomes like part of you.
Okay.
If you've been you've been out of job for 10 years, then that part of your identity is that job. Now you've got to. This is why athletes have trouble retiring for some time, because that's what they've known their whole lives. To say
musicians
you gotta go,
too. Some old in the rock and roll spheres, at least some of these old bands need to kind of like go off in the greener pasture. They don't quit.
They don't have anything.
They don't quit.
They don't know.
That's all they know.
Yeah. So it can happen to anybody. Look, I got friends making damn near six figures, if not that, and ones that are like barely minimum wage, but their acceleration from to use a physics analogy, no matter what their velocity is, the $100,000 velocity or the $10 an hour velocity, which is going to be a little slower. In either case, their acceleration is close to zero.
Got it.
And acceleration is how you change speed.
Got it. Yeah, I wrote down a couple notes before we met today, because we're always all over the place. And I guess I wrote down, what do you think is stronger of an obstacle for humans? Peer pressure or laziness? And I know they're not identical. They're not even kind of related.
But which one is harder to overcome?
Yeah, from your life experience and your life experience of observing and watching it and helping folks, what do you think is the more difficult obstacle?
Ooh, for the average person, I'm gonna say the average person, i.e. somebody within one standard deviation of the mean of whatever trait we're gonna look at. To buck and go against. Oh, I'm thinking. That's a good question.
Hey, what do you know? I do it once in a while. I stomped dead Latimore.
So my intuition says that peer pressure is going to be the harder one to break.
Okay.
I think, not that I think, I know we're programmed to conform to a group, because in a group there's a certain level of security
and comfort,
certain level of expectations, comfort. You
right
figure out your role. People are the most important thing. You build social networks. I think to go against that for the average person is harder than it is to change laziness, because I don't even think most people. Okay, let me revise that. I think a lot of people, comparatively, if we compare within the averages, they don't look lazy. They look much lazier than anyone else. Anyhow.
Okay.
It's not till you start looking at extremes, when you start getting two standard deviations out, and I say that like abstractly, but to fit kind of as a metaphor. When we start looking at like two standard deviations from the average, okay, then you see a big difference. They're like you're not going to be able to tell the difference. We'll just like use something that people know well. Two things that they can observe and experience well to just experience this difference in measurement. You talk to the average IQ is 100. That's right. That's at least that's what the thing is calibrated on. All right. You're not going to notice the difference really talking to somebody between 98 and 105.
Right.
You're not really going to, you just won't any more than you'll notice the difference between somebody who's like 105 and 115.
Okay. Fair point.
It depends on like what you're talking about, but for the most part, those people are going to move about the same. When you start having conversations with people who are 130 or higher, right? And 130 is right on the cusp of the second and third standard deviation. You realize you're dealing with somebody who can actually think, process, and do it in real time and observe and figure out things. Like one of my strengths is reading body language. I love it, and I think I love it because I'm good at it, and it gives me an advantage.
Like modeling,
people can't do it. I've realized, or at least most people can't, any more than they can think about the future. We were talking about before, think about the future and go, okay, here's a factor, here's a factor, here's a factor, here's a probability, assign it real quick, and you're not doing real numbers, just roughly thinking in terms of that, and then trying to decide the most optimal move to take. That is not typical. Okay,
right. Correct.
Our height is a great example.
Agreed.
The average height of a man is 5'9". All right. All right.
Okay.
That's crazy, right? 5'9". At least in America, it's 5'9". It's like 5'8", I think. In America, it's 5'8". You don't really notice the difference between somebody who's 5'8" and 5'10". I mean, like, you know, one is taller, but if you're looking from afar, it's not going to really pop out to you. You notice someone's 6'1" compared to 5'8", and you definitely notice when somebody is 6'3" puts you above the mean. But go ahead and try and tell the difference between someone who's 6'3" and 6'5". I actually I'm clueless half the time, right?
Interesting.
And those are rare. Extremes highlight averages, which is kind of the point I'm making, and you don't really notice the differences in the ranges of averages.
Got it.
All right, but it's only when you start comparing to the extreme. And so, with that said, I don't think most people look at most other people and think you're lazy.
Okay.
And here's the first thing I thought of. You know, most people go, okay, what's a good show to watch on Netflix? And that's like the conversation. That's a weird conversation. When you think about that, it's a bunch of people trying to figure out ways to waste their time that could be used to develop and grow. Never mind the fact that they're not even looking on their own to figure out.
They're so lazy they can't even do it on their own. They're asking for them to spoon feed it to them.
But that's normal.
Every day?
Every day, that's
Every
normal.
day.
Okay?
Every day.
Compare, you're never going to see me ask what a good show is to watch on Netflix. I'm going to get a recommendation. Sure, I'll take it. I'll talk about ones that I like. But if I'm looking for things to watch on Netflix that desperately,
well, your time is valuable,
right? Because I'm using it to advance and move. But I just don't think that to comparing laziness to social pressure. Laziness is like the Matrix. Like, you don't even know you're in the Matrix half the time.
Okay.
Like, yeah, and you don't know it till you see somebody who isn't. And you're like, holy shit, you have powers. And it's crazy. And you're like, how can... And most times you don't even think you can get them. They think you're godlike. Like, how many people look at me, what I post on social media, and I do not post gaudy. I don't think I do, anyhow.
I don't think you do.
And go, man, you must be rich. I'm like, I don't know why. Why does one think that? Well, okay, they think that because how often do they encounter somebody who has complete control of their time, is industrious, and
well-spoken, well-written,
right.
And
just
circles
always
that you move,
always doing things and creating.
100%.
And so they go, oh, you must be written. It's not even remotely.
But that's
true.
where you're right. That's where the average public goes to. They equate that money number with something else.
Because I look at people who I'm, as I aspire to like do, like, because I think like one of my reach goals is like to do $1 million a year. I think I will realistically be able to do more than that if I want to, but that's like a reach goal. And I look at the people I know who are doing that. I look at them like, oh, they're rich,
Sure.
But now I'm talking.
It's all relative.
Now it's like, two SDs versus 3 SDs looking and going, okay,
right.
Because they don't see that ever. That's what laziness is like. Bucking the social pressure, peer pressure, that I think people can touch and see more, and so I think. They recognize what that looks like, and it's easier for them to shed an old group. Now find another one, but shed an old group. I think that's a little more common. So I think they're kind of different. That they're going to talk about overcoming it. Laziness is probably, as I break it down and analyze it, laziness is probably harder
it gets more
to
difficult.
overcome, because when you truly stop being lazy, what do? Well, you raise your income above the average, and that's not too obvious. But what is obvious is when you put yourself in that magical 20% of people who are not overweight or obese.
Right.
That's 20%. That's 4 and 5 people who are overweight or obese. And that's why BMI. When I bring that stat up, a lot of times people go, oh, it's BMI. It's not accurate. I'm like, no. Most people are not don't have the amount of muscle I have. Most people are not 6'3", 6'4". For most people, BMI is fairly accurate.
Exactly
and
right.
Fairly useful.
I couldn't agree with you
more.
more.
Let's put it like this. If you're an extreme that BMI doesn't apply to, you already know that. Like, and you know that by the fact that you almost certainly played a sport, or your height was unusually high or something like that. Like, people who are, as I say, I have an article about how to be more attractive as a guy, and I tell guys,
it's good.
And my recommendation for guys,
Latimore.com, by the
way, to improve their appearance is, get your BMI over like 20 and your body fat under 16 or 15 to 16%, and you will look fine. But notice, like, I pair both measurements. But if I had to like pick one for the average guy, man, get your BMI down. Like, that'll make a big difference. Most people don't have a problem of too little body fat. Like, that's not.
Let's talk about that for a second. My journey last 2 years with just changing my life a lot, weight, it's part of it, but is a lot of it has to do with our conversations. I want to say thank you publicly now. It means a lot to me. What I discovered a couple things, going from 240-ish to 171. I discovered a couple things. Complimentary speaking, a feel-good moment, Ed, being mid-50s and being 5'11" and 170 under my BMI, at my BMI, or slightly under the median there, that's a superpower, because it does so much for you mentally. It does it from an appearance in business, from social gatherings. It is a superpower that it's a weird way to describe it, but I put it that way. But you can't articulate that to most people because they either misinterpret what you're saying or whatever. There's an offense that comes with that. Funny thing, when I made the change, a lot of folks were saying I look sickly, you need to put on, you get a lot of negativity. So I understand where they're not my peer, they're my peers, I guess, but you get a lot of pressure in that regard. It's kind of reverse weight, not discrimination, but reverse weight comments. Instead of saying someone's put on weight, you're now criticizing them because they're too thin. The fascinating thing was I went back and looked at what we thought in the 60s, 70s, and even midway through the 80s, what celebrities, because I figured, okay, well, if I'm 171 and people were saying I look gaunt and sickly and all that, what did James Dean look like? What did Billy D. Williams look like? What did John Travolta look like? What did Burt Reynolds look like? These folks were skinnier than as I sit here today, but that was acceptable and desirable, and that was okay. So what changed? Right? What changed in 30, 40 years?
We were at Nemacolin for my birthday, and up there he's got at Nemacolin there's a display of a Marilyn Monroe dress, and Anna was like, when people say Marilyn Monroe was a size 12, and like that's okay, what they got to realize is like the sizing changed, and like because that's not a size 12, that
right.
That's what they're like today. That's like a size. I mean, when she was probably like a 6 or 7. I was looking at the dress easy,
right?
But in terms of what's changed, man, it's a combination of a few factors. I'll say half of which are not in our control,
okay.
Or at the very least, society does not support, or society does not support the opposite, which would be health. All right, so the number one thing you got to remember, the food today is mostly garbage, and it's garbage in a few ways. There's the obvious, I think, or one area that most people are familiar with, which is in processed food.
Mm-hmm.
And in processed food, there's so much stuff added that not only adds calories, but triggers an insulin response.
Right.
And once you learn how insulin works, your whole mind gets blown about everything, and that's a different discussion. But the point is, while insulin doesn't make you fat, it makes it impossible for you to get thin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our food processed, and in that processing area, like there's so much hidden sugars and like sauces and ketchups and stuff like that. Anything that comes in a box, you're probably getting some sugar you didn't want. All right, that's number one. Number two, in the way our food is trash, is nutrient depletion, and this really blew my mind the way it was explained to me. You're going to feel satiated when you get what you need to eat. Mm-hmm. That sounds obvious, but we need to start with there. And more specifically, what you need to eat. All right? If you don't get what you need to eat, your body just goes, hey, man, keep giving me more of it because it should be coming from this stuff. Well, right now, a lot of our food, because of the way the soil is treated, and a lot of the not artificial, but so this is the way the soil is treated. The soil is depleted of nutrients that would normally make our vegetables more filling and more nutritious. So you got to go out of your way to get that stuff. A lot of people don't know that, right? And this is the general ignorance about food. I really feel there is a certain pervasive ignorance about food and nutrition. So we got the food quality. That's a big deal. Okay. The next thing is a big deal is we do not have a lifestyle, and certainly not in the United States especially, of movement in general.
Mm-hmm.
We drive to work, we sit, we drive back, then we hang out on the couch. We are a sedentary species. So we are operating like we're just not burning a lot of calories. If you don't make it a habit to go for walks, to get in the gym, to move around, you don't get nearly enough exercise, and everything you put on in a caloric surplus is going to add to your body. It's going to make you more insulin resistant, all that stuff, right? So there's that. So we got poor food quality, we got a lifestyle that doesn't promote movement, and both of those things just kind of, get exacerbated. Like now, what is everyone's favorite form of entertainment? Let's hang out and watch something on Netflix. Not a lot of hikers, not a lot of runners, not a lot of people doing anything that's going to make them that's going to train their body.
Commercials, I mean, you see all these health related commercials. Somebody's doing it.
Nah, because here's what blows my mind, right? Health at this point, we have an incredible sick care system.
Okay.
Right? Like if you get sick care, we can really handle things.
We got a pill for you.
Yeah, we got a pill, we got a surgery, we got a treatment. I mean, we're amazing at sick care. Healthcare is personal responsibility and awareness and education, and we are terrible at that. It requires restraint and discipline as well. That's why a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to touch it. There was it wasn't even a joke. A lot of people were saying everything we know about COVID-19 and how much more or how much greater the likelihood is that you will be hospitalized or die if you are overweight. The articles comorbidities. And to not see one major announcement about make sure you walk, get it together. Instead, mask up and vaccinate. Sick care, mask up, vaccinate, or rather, masking is technically preventative, but that's a very no responsibility, no personal,
no.
So that's a problem. I remember, like we were saying earlier in the show, I never connected these two ideas, but here they are. I remember reading on somebody's, there was some paper. It was a paper or a blog, or it was a blog quoting a paper that basically said, if all humans got taller or shorter by 3 inches, people would still be they would be attracted to one another the same because the height is relative. Okay. That's what that is. It's not like that for weight, though. If everybody on average got 30 pounds heavier, humans would be less attracted to one another. Surprise, surprise, we're having less sex. I am sure those two things are not unrelated.
Got it. Good observation.
So I never put those two things together until now talking. But yeah, that's...
Well, bad diet's got to be affecting the male sex drive and the testosterone depletion and all that stuff has to be contributing to that, right?
Oh, absolutely. The average guy is 5'9", 168 pounds or something like that, and he's not not in shape. It's like his waistline is 35 or something like that. If I remember right. There's you can look this up. It's interesting stuff to see, but I go back decades. It's I'm 20 years on you, so I get the 70s and the 80s. These were celebrities that women would fawn over. These male celebrities, and they were 30, 31, 32-inch waist guys, and they were the hottest shit on the planet. But now if you see someone like that today, they're people say, I look anorexic. You look anorexic. I'm like, well, okay. So here's the thing. It's nuts. Human nature is human nature. Look, that hasn't changed. What has changed is
crazy.
And I would imagine my intuition is that most of the kickback you got is from guys. That would be my intuition.
Pretty much.
Because you a threat now.
Pretty much.
You're not mold. Not only are you a threat, man, but you're highlighting the insufficiency.
Yeah, I guess indirectly that happens, but that's not my problem. That's their own issue with it, which is sad. I don't care about that stuff, but I get it. They're internalizing it.
When you improve in certain metrics, that improvement automatically highlights the people who didn't do it.
Okay.
and who won't do it. If you go and get in shape and you were not in shape, you're gonna have to change friends, because you got a bunch of people who are friends with you, whether they're in shape or not, while you were out of shape, and they're used to talking to and interacting with you a certain way.
Got it.
Well, you change that. You didn't disrupt the status quo. You're out of shape, friends. I mean, y'all connected on bad habits. And now that you don't have those, you're not gonna be able to support them, and they're gonna go like, even if you don't do it. This is something I learned not drinking. Right, which is why I'm very careful to say I'm sober instead of I don't drink. Because people have a very different reaction for a reason.
There's no question. That's part of my journey too. Is 2 years is next month for me. Just quit.
Yep.
I didn't think I had a problem with it, but I didn't want it in my life because I was making changes. That's kind of my attitude toward it. You know, I didn't feel I had a problem.
But when you say you don't drink, and everybody else around you does, and you used to drink,
right?
Yeah, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, and I learned this. It's not gonna work because like when I tried to get sober, I remember talking to the first few times. I remember talking to some friends, and they were like, "Oh, I don't think you have a problem." Of course, they're not gonna. Because if we're drinking together and I have a problem, then it's only one. Then the natural conclusion, or only one of two natural conclusions: you also have a problem, or you're enabling my problem, and you don't want to believe that. So and that's and it's neither.
It's neither. It's neither.
But that's just how we look at things when we're as humans, and we're comparative. That's just how it goes. So
how do you handle it? I'll ask you, how do you handle those social situations? What, like, if it comes up? I mean, I think people around you now obviously know you don't drink, but I mean, like,
at Latimore now, I don't have to. I mean, that's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's that. Not only that, I'm 37 now too, which makes a big difference. And here's what I've figured out. One, when your life is together and you are an example, nobody really says anything for that reason. Like they like when you're just a regular person. I say this somewhat jokingly, talking about some people I know that aren't together. It'd be easier if you it'd be easier to accept if you were on drugs, because then there'd be an excuse. Like then I could wrap my mind around why you keep fucking up. Like I'd get that, but since you're not on drugs, then I just gotta look at you and be like, man, what's wrong here? So I bring that up to say, one of the things that made it really easy from a social perspective, people knew I fought. So they just assumed that it had something to do with fighting.
Got it.
For a long time.
Got it.
Who it's social, so it never came up. I mean, my close friends knew why I stopped drinking, but people met me and they just assumed I was a fighter. They take one look at me, or they go look me up or something, or they heard and they go, okay, obviously that's why.
But plus your circle's probably changed.
Well, okay, so here's where here's how I've been incredibly fortunate. My good friends, no change. Like the guys I knew before drinking, no change.
Right.
The people I met while I was drinking, though, I'm trying to think. There are like a handful, like literally I could probably count them on like one hand. Not even, I'm counting two people in particular that like stand out as becoming my friend during the drinking years, and then
still around.
One of them no longer drinks either.
Got it.
I'm not sure about the other one. I have no idea, but probably not either, because it's not. You can't be close friends with somebody like me and be living reckless. It's just not going to work. Yeah. I'm not going to like say anything to you.
Right.
But what are we going to discuss? What are we going to do? You're talking about how you're trying to get to this part of the drink and whatever, or do something foolish. I'm over talking about what I'm trying to build, what I'm trying to do, things of that nature. Very different conversations. I think about the conversations I was not having when I was in the midst of that lifestyle, and it's light and day. I couldn't. There's certain people I wouldn't vibe with, wouldn't interact with. So. Nah, for me, that part has actually been relatively easy because of who I am and who I continue to be. But But I could see how for the average person, where you don't have anything to anchor yourself to, you're running into a challenge. So I always tell guys when they're trying to stop drinking, man, you need to take up a constructive,
of course,
preferably challenging hobby.
100%.
If you do that, then you're gonna have something to remind you of what you're trying to accomplish, and then as you accomplish that, you'll be able to see the results. But if you're just trying to be regular old you and just stop drinking, you have a problem. Like, because you haven't
replaced that with anything, right?
Well, I think that is part of it. But like, to use a computer as an analogy, right? You get an updated piece of software, but you didn't change the hardware. Mm-hmm. So that software is like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't be like, you can't run me. Like, pretty much, like, you don't have the necessary tools in place to handle what I'm capable of handling. So when I crash, and I will crash, you're gonna go back to the old version.
Right.
And with hardware in this analogy being a lifestyle and choices you make, and I think, you know, when I talk about getting sober, I always put a big emphasis on your environment. I used to not, because I used to think, I wanted to believe that you could like have the same friends and do the same things, and I'm like,
I think most people believe
that's
that, right?
so foolish and arrogant. Like to think that you could do the same stuff and get different results. Nope, it's not how it works. And so I say you have to build a lifestyle that, you know, or try to start building one that's different than what you had, or you know, or embrace one that's been pushing you away, kind of. You know what I mean by that is a lot of people have estranged relationships or weren't able to do something. But I guess that's all the same thing.
Yeah, I found it tough, really tough, being around. Whether it's family or whether it's my small circle of friends, those who like to tie one on occasionally. Since I am not drinking anymore, I look at those interactions a lot differently now, and I find myself pulling away from them from a time standpoint, because I just don't want to be bothered with that. I have other stuff that's occupying my brain.
Stuff occupying my. And here's another thing that happens too. Another thing that happens. I obviously I don't mean this literally. I mean this like figuratively. Right. I don't see the alcohol. Like
what do you mean?
Okay, so if I'm in a place where people are drinking alcohol is like free or something, I don't.
Oh, you're not tempted.
I don't see it. Now, I'm not only tempted, it's just it's not part of my life anymore.
Yeah, right on.
So what am I going to like? I just look at it; it's just there, but I don't feel a pull towards it either way. And so and I've learned to socialize and interact without it. So I'm not like going, oh man, I'm shy. Like, no, have a conversation, talk to people, all that kind of stuff. You learn like I said, as the hardware changes, you can upgrade your software. You can learn how to talk to people. That's a big one. You can learn how to have conversations and connect with humans.
My frustration, though, did you experience this frustration when you quit drinking, that when you would go out to still socialize and you want to have those conversations with people that you enjoy, I ended up not liking those conversations because 20 minutes to 40 minutes in, those conversations they deteriorated in quality. And now I'm kind of disinterested. So now I'm thinking about the next time I'm supposed to go meet them while they're having some cocktails. I don't really want to go because I love them to death. They're great people, but that's not the setting that's going to give me a high quality conversation.
Well, I just wouldn't go. I mean, that's
where I'm at.
This is something cool that really happened to me. And I say happened to me rather than I did it. But because I had some part in it, but I naturally stopped getting invited to places because why would I go? Because what am I going to do if that's the activity? But what that does is that forces me to be so intentional with all of my social interactions. Mm-hmm. So I message and go, hey man, do you want to get lunch together? Right? Or we're going to do this. Let's talk about coffee. Right? All of that stuff comes together. And it forces me to have a more concentrated interaction with fewer people, which makes the relationship's stronger.
I bet.
It completely.
I haven't thought about that.
It completely, and so I'm conducting the interactions on my own terms,
and it serves you.
And yep, it serves both of us.
Oh, certainly.
But I don't want to. And you know, one of the things that getting sober taught me about commitment is once you decide you're going to go down a path. Mm-hmm. If you're committed to that, then the next thing you have to do is put every tool at your disposal in your favor. You have to go. You have to. You forget 100% success. You're trying to aim for 110%, right? Now, by aiming for 110%, when you fall short, as you inevitably will, you'll be 95%, 100%. Instead of you trying to just wing it, when you inevitably fall short, which you will, it's not as low. So like I went to AA, right? I decided AA wasn't for me, but I talked about the AA meeting. I made sure I told all my friends I'm done drinking. I didn't go anywhere where there was alcohol for a little while. Obviously, I'm way good now, but I didn't do that. I put everything in my favor, and I kind of burned the boats, And after I had a month in, because no one takes you seriously if you say I'm not drinking again starting today, right? No one cares, or at the very least they don't believe you. Mm-hmm. A month in, they believe you. They or more believe. So I have a month. I've said every month for the first year, every month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It comes up in my memories. The 23rd of every day of the month comes up in my memories.
Right on.
And as the months went on, people got more vested. By a year, people know I'm serious. Mm-hmm. I know I'm serious, mm-hmm. And by putting that stuff out there, I'm not. It looks bad if I retreat on my promise,
of course, on
my commitment. That's why I put the markers out there. Mm-hmm. Right. Then 2 years. Now 2 years is a funny period, time period for me. A lot of people felt that I was cool with as a friend, backed off for one reason or another, one way or another, because they realized this change is not only permanent, but the changes in my life are going along with them are permanent. And now you've got to relate to me a different way. Like well, no matter what you think about what I think, you were justifying it because I'm not any different. Right. Didn't do anything crazy or anything. Right. I do much better stuff now. Right. But now you got to justify how to relate to me, and I'm not under the influence of alcohol. And so that's that change in social. Mm-hmm. The social status. Mm-hmm. Year 5. Now I'm real serious. Now I got a tattoo. Now we're on year 8. Right. It's putting everything in my favor because the benefit is so great, and that's commitment. That's what it shows me. Is what
it's discipline and commitment.
Yeah,
because there's a difference, right?
Right. Commitment. Yeah. I would say digging down to the nitty gritty. I think you can use them interchangeably for the most part sometimes, but when we start digging, a discipline, or to describe something that has discipline, is a repeated action despite feelings. You're going to move forward despite feelings and honor your duty, while commitment is it feels like a little less, but I guess commitment is when you're attached to the thing or the outcome. Right. That's how that goes, and you're going to see through it.
Let me ask you your thoughts on the following. My father used to tell me when I was younger, he used to say, there really aren't any lazy people. They're just people that have not found their thing or gotten charged up about something that excited them yet. Everybody has the ability to have that feeling. Those people just haven't found it yet. And I always looked at them like, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some lazy people.
I completely disagree 100%. Because here's the thing, right? It's funny. I just had a newsletter about this similar idea I sent out, that everything is going to be discouraging at some point.
Okay.
There is not a single thing worth doing, and many things not worth doing, that won't be discouraging at some point. It's going to make you feel like you don't want to do this, you hate this. What you've got to have is a disciplined kind of. You have to be disciplined and committed, because you can't rely on motivation. Motivation is fickle. That's going to wane when you inevitably hit plateaus. But if you're committed to improving, you'll continue to improve. I just don't believe in getting fired. Like, you can get fired up. That's like an added bonus that occasionally occurs. But to get long-term results, to make a big difference, ain't no fired up, man. That is a disciplined, committed approach.
Yeah.
Like I think about, like I'm writing my next book right now, and I think about, I'm not motivated per se. Like, not in the way I think about it. Like, I don't have an emotional reaction when I think about the book. I know that it will help people, and I'm crafting and sharpening my ideas and doing my research and doing it well. But if it was about being fired up, I don't want it, man. Look, I'd rather play chess all day.
Yeah. No. I think my father's point was that he believed that you had the potential to find that spark of something that interests you to get you excited. And maybe he's looking at it like, well, there's something probably in that person that we think's a do nothing. There's got to be something they dig.
Well, sure, but it doesn't matter, because
but it won't stay long term.
Because here's the thing: you can dig a lot of stuff that ain't gonna be good for you. In fact, that's what most people do.
Crack is my thing.
Right? Like you gotta understand. I'm the meanest crack. Like, no, it doesn't work. And also, like, when we talk about getting them to do something, we're looking for an outcome, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because imagine if you told me that you were like super industrious, but you was living in a trash can. I'd be like, what are you talking about? It's not true. So we're looking for some type of outcome. We're looking for some show, and it doesn't have to be financial, just a body of work or the respect of people.
Right.
Whatever. We need to see that you have done something to affect physical reality.
Right.
If you only do things when you're fired up, the chances of that occurring are slim to none.
Because it's temporary.
If you slog it out and put the work in, my website right now, I think I got to count, but rough, I feel like there's about 150 articles on it.
Okay,
feels about right. Over at this point, it'll be I started the blog before I left for the Army, so it's coming up on 10 years.
Okay.
That year I started it, so it's about 10 years. And that is people go, oh, blog and you can't make money. You're right. No one pays me directly for my website. That doesn't happen.
Right. You're not just putting in time.
Yeah, well, what they do is they found my books. They sign up for my mailing list. They can become potential clients because they
found value.
They see the slog, the effort, the work, and they got something out of it. And so that's giving me a real solid foothold in the internet. Like my site has got a domain rating of approximately 46. Right, which is like, it's not bad, not great. It's a lot better than a lot of sites on the internet.
No doubt.
And that, people find me for my work all the time.
That's exciting.
It's allowed me to make a great living. Same with my Twitter account, right? So, and social media. Social media is a great example because a lot of people just view it as fun. It can be. To me, there's a process here. I'm writing every day. I'm writing for other people because people pay me $5,000 a month to write there and run their account, right? That's it. You can't do that if you're fired up because it's somebody else's voice. No, I approach it with a workman-like approach, right? So I'm not relying.
But that's understanding discipline, though. See, and that's where I think most humans really don't use discipline to their own advantage. I think most humans really we're getting through it.
Yeah,
that's my observation.
We're very much. Most of us are like pool balls, man. Very few of us are the white ball. Like,
got it.
That's
we're reacting.
We are reacting and being pushed around.
Yeah.
And moving.
So
we're second movers to life. few of us are first movers. Even fewer first movers who are willing to risk losing. Mm-hmm. I read, apparently there's a stat, but I've seen the idea put out there that like 97% of people don't write down goals or plans, and they end up working for the 3% who do, or something to that effect. And that's about right. Like that feels right, because I see it on the internet. I see it because I got a following on 3 platforms, but 2 where I can really see what other people are posting and doing. And it's really something to look at how many people just kind of moving through the world. Just moving through, no real ambition per se, and that's fine. It's not judgment. It's not judgment. It's observation. It's observation,
right?
And then not observation,
right?
You'll get what comes to you. You won't really get. I just feel like there's so much cool stuff to see and do on this planet.
There's a lot of wasted talent out there too that's not being utilized. I think.
Yeah, because you have to. Like, I think about what it's taken for me to think the way I think and move the way I move, and that's not common. And even if and I don't think it'll ever be common. And I don't think I'm like a crazy mover and shaker. I just know I'm more than the average person. Can you foster that? Can you develop it? Absolutely. The circumstance to do that, though, not so much, because a lot of those circumstances are risky, and we continue to try and remove risk from the world. We have become very. I think when you look at some of the responses to the pandemic, you see their response was focused on eliminating all risk to human health. Not telling people, here's what you got to do to eliminate the chance you end up in the hospital, while we're trying to maintain the economy and keep people's livelihoods. We focus so much on making sure that we remove the risk that like we really did a lot of damage that I don't think.
Well, kids are still masked in school 2 years in here. I mean, you can't tell me there's some issues there,
which is absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane.
But and how's it stay? It only stays because people follow and enforce it. That's it. Like when 1 or 2 people, decide to break free or make a good argument, that's not what changes things.
Yeah.
What changes things is, regardless of how you feel about it, kind of what's going on in Canada. One by one, mandates started dropping and falling the moment these guys decided, okay, here's what we'll show you. We're going to make it a nuisance, and we're kind of important, so good luck, doing your job without us. So
it's called leverage.
And some people, you go down to Florida. I was talking to a buddy who lives in Arizona. He was saying, what's crazy? Arizona did the exact same thing Florida did, like the exact same thing. Florida's just in the news about it because they wanted to be loud about it. He was like, we haven't had mandates, and everything was right open. Like, we had a brief little shutdown for 2 weeks.
Difference of the governors. Like, one want to be out front and be vocal, and the other one's not so much that way.
He was like, I'm going to hang out and do this, whatever, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I just think that at times I don't know. I remember how great I felt, Ed, years ago when I started my own business in 2000, started earning income under my own volition to support my family, and I wasn't dependent upon a paycheck. And I remember that intrinsic excitement that I felt, which was almost, and I wasn't sophisticated enough to articulate it if someone asked me, but I felt it. And I think to myself, if more people would feel something like that, I would wish that on more people, because it was such a great joy. But there's a huge, it's like a mental obstacle to get there that's so prevalent out in society.
It's hard. That's all. It's just hard. It's hard, and there's risk, and everybody wants guarantees. Ain't no guarantees. Everyone wants it to be easy. Nothing's easy. So,
Jim, you familiar with Jim Rohn?
Yes.
I studied Jim for a long time.
I think I have one of his books, actually.
Let me see. Living an Inspired Life.
something to do with, I'm not sure what the title is. Somebody got it for me for my birthday.
Yeah, very practical advice, very straightforward, not breaking any new ground, but very, very, very centered and principled person. But he used to talk about how, he would go to a lecture and roughly 1,000 people there. He knows that only probably about, in the end, 20 to 15 people are probably going to walk away getting something out of that. And he said that he used to wonder for days when he was younger, why is that? That isn't right. It shouldn't be that way. And then at some point he just said, that's just the way things are. You understand. You don't spend the needless time trying to figure it out. You just work with those 15 folks, and you realize you touched 15 people out of 1,000, and that's just the way it is.
Some people,
acceptance, I guess.
Everything. I really believe most traits are normally distributed anyway, meaning that most people aren't 6'1" and above. Most people are between most people under 5 feet, right? Normal distribution.
Right.
Most people aren't geniuses, 132 IQ and above. Most people are right between 195 and 105, right? Most things are normally distributed. Ambition, I think, is no different.
Okay.
And so, so
you think there's genetics in there?
Yeah, I guess genetics is the best answer. I mean, remember, we don't like taking risks. You got to remember that. Yeah. Humans do not. Every organism in the universe seeks to attain the most energy efficient configuration.
Right. That's physics.
Every single one. I think it's a great general way to state that we all try to find what's comfortable. It's very unnatural to look around and go, this is comfortable, but I want to try and get more. That's not normal. Okay. That's why most people, kind of by definition, weren't leaders or conquerors. And, they just, that's not how it works. Most people do what most people do, and the ones who break free and have the power and drive and the ability to take risk and all, they're the ones that are going to move to the top. Because look, if everybody thought like me, if everybody thought like you, then all of a sudden that would be the average, and there'd be somebody more extreme that comes out.
Yeah.
That's just that is how it's always been and how it'll always be. I just think today one of the big problems, it's the best way to put this, it's very easy to see the results of that lifestyle, that way of thinking. And so you start thinking, I want those, but you're just not built for it. You can't acquire that. Most people don't have the drive and the ability to earn what it takes to get a big house, a big car, and be able to vacation whenever they want. Most people don't have what it takes to earn, $100,000 a year plus, whether it be an ability, drive, intelligence, whatever. They don't have it, but they see what it buys and they want what it buys. Fall in love with the outcome, not so much the process.
You just described Instagram.
Yeah, dude, everyone thinks they can just spring up and make a bunch of money, and most people ain't got it. They don't have it. By definition, most people don't have it. But you can't. But does that sound fatalistic? I'm sure, you could, but you won't. Or don't.
Yeah, the numbers dictate that you won't.
Yeah, or I'd like to say, everyone thinks they're the exception to the rule, but you're probably not. Sorry, that's just how exceptions work. That's what they mean.
That's a definition of an exception.
So most, that's just the world we live in, and that's the people that inhabit the world we live in, and that's how it is.
Okay, before we wrap this up today, I want to ask you about chess. I want to ask you where your interest came, and I want to ask you the following. If someone, let's say a middle-aged person, I don't know, maybe someone that I might know, might want to actually learn to play chess, where would you send that person to start? Being that we're in an internet world, would you send them online? Would you... but chess for you, how did that start for you?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, the game always looked interesting to me. I remember my earliest memory is my dad teaching me.
Okay.
At some point when I was young, and then I just always liked it and always wanted to get better at it. Took a backseat here and there, and then one day I found a teacher, and I started. And that was
locally or on the internet?
On the internet.
Okay.
My first teacher was definitely the guy Eric. He lives in Budapest. Great teacher. Really interesting background. started competing at a relatively late age, 18, and attained the international master ranking, which is relatively rare because most top level players are by 18 at the very least candidate masters.
Wow.
They've reached I think a candidate master is 2,000, maybe 2,200, somewhere in there. No, candidate masters 2,000. There are titles you get like that you're conferred based on your rating.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I got these ratings right. Candidate masters 2,000. FIDA, or our national master, is 2,200.
Okay.
FIDA, FIDE master is 2,300. International master is 2,403 norms, and grandmaster is 2,503 norms. And then there are like certain.
That's a rating system, or is this a games one?
Rating system.
It's a rating system.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
norms,
sophisticated.
And norms are like you have to have a certain performance in a tournament against other players of equal strength. Like an IM doesn't just become an IM international master.
Okay.
By reaching 2,400. All right, say it's 23 or 24, right? He has to also have a good performance in a tournament of other international masters.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So in other words, like, you know, the difference becomes bigger at the skill level, the higher the skill level gets. Like right now, you know, the short of me like not paying attention, I'll walk through anyone under 1,500.
Got it.
Should beat most people under 1,600. And well, not beat. I mean, yeah, almost. I think my win rate is like 85% under 1,600, and in 1,700 area, it's like 50-50 because I'm like 18 right now.
Wow. So within those, the rating system comes to level of predictability in terms of how the performance.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it because it's called ELO, and I don't remember what that stands for. That's what the rating is. Another way to look at the ELO scores, look at two ELO scores, look at the difference, and then what that is saying, another way to look at it is this is the percentage, this is the likelihood that this person will beat that person.
Okay.
If they play 10 games, a difference of like 50 points means I should win like, I think 1 of 10 of those games.
Okay.
Or I should win 9 of 10 of those games.
Okay.
And a difference of like 75, it takes to like 3 or 10 and with a draw or something like that. But that's pretty much how you look at it, is the difference in the ELO scores signify the likelihood that you'll beat the other person.
Okay.
Which is why the bigger the difference, the more likely it is that you'll win. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think. The lowest rating I've lost to in the past, because I've been 18 for about a month now. I have not. They actually don't even give me guys to play because it's a random pairing on chess.com. They don't even give me guys to play that are like under 16 anymore because it's not. Okay. And I'll only get like 4 points if I win, and so it's not even a thing. Okay. But yeah, so once I got the teacher and I really started to learn how to look at the game the right way. And also look at what the engine is telling me is correct or incorrect, and develop ways to train. That's when I got stronger and started to really understand what I'm doing and play. And now I have like kind of a roadmap for improvement. Like I know to get to 1,900, I know what I have to do and what I need to sharpen up and where I'm weak at and how to evaluate those weaknesses and think like that. So I don't remember who or exactly how old I was when I got interested in chess and learn how to play, but in terms of like taking the game really, really serious, 2017.
Oh, really? Is that recent?
Yep. Because because to get better at chess, you need you need some resources, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be pay for a teacher or book, stuff like that. I finally like resources around that time, and chess has always been important and cool to me. So I said, let me get a teacher. I was like, I could not get above 1,500 at this point. Now I'm like 18.
Amazing how that works, huh?
Yeah, well, because I know what to look for, what to do. I understand what makes a good move, a bad move, and I continue to improve that understanding. The goal is to get a title. I said one of my goals in life is to be a title player. Got it. To be able to go, Ed Latimore FM or Ed Latimore CM or something like that. It doesn't matter. I just want a title. Right? I'll get it.
Yeah, it's an achievement. for sure.
Yeah, and then you can actually say, I'm a chess master. Not like, what kind of master? Candidate, international fighter, right?
Right. So would you say chess.com is a good place to start if someone's
good place as any. Chess is a simple game.
Do you ever still play in person anymore? Do you still?
Whenever I get a chance to.
Yeah. Is it intrinsically cooler or different sitting across the table from a human as opposed to doing it online? Or the same to you?
Nah, because I can't see the person, and they can't see me.
It's like poker.
Yeah, but it doesn't make as much of a difference because at the end of the day, chess is pure calculation. In fact, by the definition of a game, chess isn't even a game. It's just a really complex problem.
Math problem.
Yeah. and part of the definition of a game is that there's a level of unpredictability that neither player can control.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And so like for example, like when they talk about Prisoner's Dilemma, that's a game because I don't know what you're thinking. And I can't do anything to know that. I don't know what you're. If we consider your decision to snitch or to be quiet, like what cards you're holding, I don't know what cards you're holding.
Okay. And
I can't do anything about that. And you can't play in response to me that way. So there's an element of the unknown.
Right.
Same with like card games. Well, we don't know how the cards are going to come out, and I don't know what cards you're going to get. So we're playing a game. Whenever there's an unknown element, whether it be in knowledge or what we'll call it props that are part of the game, that's what a game is. Chess is not a game because we see all the pieces on the board. The computer has worked out the most optimal move to make in any situation, or at least the most advanced computers have, and in theory, all of them can be done. But it's not a game in the sense because we know all possible outcomes ahead of time. Now how they play out is completely different.
Right.
But I couldn't, not even in theory, this is what chess computers do, work out all the combinations. But there's no way you can do that for poker.
True. Is the way the game unfolds, is there a time limit per move?
Depends on the time controls for the game. But generally speaking, yes. There is a time.
Okay. Give me an example. Like, what is it generally?
30 minutes. Not per move, total.
For the entire game?
Yep. Well, each player has 30 minutes. Whenever it's not their turn, the clock is on the other guy, and then when they play, his clock is on the other guy.
Okay.
So...
Okay.
You can go 10, 15, or 15 with 10-second increments. Every time you make a move, you get 10 seconds back, kinda. So.
Okay. It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great game. I like it because it's hard. I mean, it's hard.
You like the complexity.
I like the complexity. I like seeing how different attacks end up working together. There are a lot of metaphors for life in chess, but like the most useful thing to me, or at least the most appealing thing to me, is I make a plan and I have to figure out the best way to execute it, and I have to look at how the board is configured. And
has that helped you in business? You see correlations there at all, or has your business acumen helped you in chess?
Man, like here's a funny thing about my business acumen. I have just enough to not starve. But like at the end of the day, I just want to write books and teach people. But I know to do that, I have to build a following. I have to be able to write ads. I have to price appropriately. I have to compete. I mean, all these things you got to learn. So I think the skills that make one good at chess, if extrapolated to other areas in life, are not a bad thing. The ability to look at a situation, to think ahead, to make the most optimal move, not necessarily, which I guess is the best move by definition, but may appear weak in some areas, but strong in others.
Instantly observable.
Yeah. Yeah. And to set things up for later. And like one thing I'm learning now, man, is like there's certain things you do, certain moves you make, and you go, oh, how bad was that? Why is the computer saying that's awful? And then you get to the end, you're like, oh, that's how you lost, because the opponent was able to manipulate that weakness you created. So you have to think long and hard is this move, it accomplishes this, but it leaves this open. Is that acceptable? Can I defend it? Can I rally around it? Is that even a big issue?
Right.
There's sometimes you imagine a problem on the board, and it's not really a problem. That's where you have to be able to calculate. They call it calculation. Be able to calculate the combination out 3 or 4 moves ahead, which is really far. Most people, good players, apparently, there's an old saying, right? They asked some grandmaster, like, how many moves ahead does he think? He goes, just one. Why would I think? And the point is, like, yes, the closer you get to understanding the game, the more you realize that there are areas where you need to calculate, but most situations can be you're just looking at candidate moves, they call them, and go, okay, that's the best one, because the rest of those are kind of bad or pretty bad.
Okay.
And this is a good one. And you don't have to think long and hard. You just know that one sucks.
Okay. This person might want to take you up on it, Ed. Did you have fun?
Have fun. Always have fun, man.
I really appreciate this, buddy.
Now I know there's a coffee shop, so I can go get
a coffee shop, and I wanted to let you. I'm moving the studio. I'm going to move to a new suite in Moon Township, probably 7 minutes away from where we're at. So the next time you're on, we'll probably be there.
No kidding.
Yeah, the studio will get about 5 feet wider and about 4 feet longer. A little more room in here for more stuff. But same vibe, keeping the table and all the lights and everything. Try to keep the same vibe, just make it a little bit bigger.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. And you're part of the reason we grew legs, and I really appreciate it, buddy.
Nice,
It means a lot, man.
I'm excited.
It means a lot. Thank you, Val.
No problem.
All right, friends. At Latimore, we're out.